December 6, 2025. What began as routine carrier drills in the East China Sea turned into a textbook case of escalation. The carrier Liaoning launched J-15 fighters that flew nearly 100 sorties. Then twice, J-15 aircraft locked fire control radar onto Japan's F-15 aircraft, the unmistakable signal that you could be shot down right now. For Tokyo, this was more than a scare. It shattered the rules of the game, and it ignited a crisis that no side could walk back. What made Beijing think it could intimidate Japan, and why did this move backfire when it mattered most? At 4:32 p.m. on December 6, 2025, a Japanese air self-defense force F-15 flying southeast of Okinawa picked up a sudden warning on its radar receiver. For the next 3 minutes, a Chinese J-15 fighter launched from the carrier Liaoning intermittently locked fire control radar onto the F-15's position. This was not a broad search sweep, it was a focused beam, a technical signal that the Japanese jet was being targeted for possible missile engagement. The F-15 maintained its monitoring track, shadowing the Liaoning task group as it continued intensive carrier operations in international airspace. Roughly 2 hours later, at 6:37 p.m., a second lock began, this time lasting an extraordinary 31 minutes. Again, a J-15 directed intermittent fire control radar at another F-15 in the same region, southeast of Okinawa. Both events occurred in the high seas near the Miyako Strait, with no public data on precise coordinates or altitude. Japanese fighters were executing standard air defense identification zone intercept protocols, maintaining what officials later described as a safe distance from the Chinese formation. Over these 2 days, Liaoning's air wing launched and recovered J-15s and helicopters around 100 times, a pace that signaled Beijing's intent to demonstrate sustained carrier air operations just beyond Japan's doorstep. The geometry was simple. Liaoning and its escorts pressed through the Miyako Strait into the Philippine Sea, while Japanese F-15s flew parallel tracks, always outside territorial airspace but close enough for their sensors and their nerves to be tested. The radar locks happened in open sky, with both sides fully aware that each second spent under fire control illumination was a calculated risk. A sudden piercing tone erupts inside the F-15 cockpit, a sound every fighter pilot dreads. The radar warning receiver, RWR, flashes a threat symbol. It's not just ordinary surveillance. The system recognizes the unique signature of fire control radar, a focus, high-power beam locked directly onto the aircraft. In the split second it takes to register, the pilot's training takes over. A fire control lock means the enemy radar is feeding precise range and velocity data to its missile systems. It's the final technical step before a launch. The warning tone is more than a nuisance. It's a hard line between routine shadowing and mortal danger. Standard rules of engagement leave no room for doubt. When the WR signals a lock, the pilot must assume a missile could be in the air at any moment. Defensive maneuvers are immediate. Adjust heading, change altitude, break the radar's line of sight if possible, and stay ready to deploy countermeasures. The pilot keeps one eye on the threat display, the other on the horizon. For 31 minutes, from 6:37 p.m. to 7:08 p.m., the lock comes and goes, intermittent but unmistakable. Each time the lock returns, the cockpit fills with that same sharp tone, a physical reminder that the aircraft is being held at gunpoint electronically. No missile launches, but the threat is real. In this moment, a single miscalculation, an aggressive turn, a misunderstood maneuver could turn a radar signal into war. For the crew inside, the difference between life and death is measured in seconds, and in the discipline to hold their nerve under the spotlight of another nation's weapon systems. In the early hours of December 7th, Tokyo's Ministry of Defense summoned reporters to an emergency briefing. Defense Minister Shinjiro Koizumi stepped before the press, his language measured but unmistakably severe. He described the Chinese radar lock as a dangerous act that goes beyond what is necessary for the safe flight of aircraft, and he called the incident extremely regrettable. The timing alone sent a message. Japan does not normally call late-night press conferences, especially not for military encounters in international airspace. Koizumi's words echoed through the corridors of government and across the region. This was not a routine diplomatic protest delivered behind closed doors. It was a deliberate move to bring the incident into the open, to signal that Tokyo would not allow such actions to pass in silence. Within hours, the foreign ministry summoned China's ambassador Wu Jianghao to formally protest and to demand that Beijing strictly restrain its frontline actions. Chief Cabinet Secretary Minoru Kihara reinforced the point, stating that Japanese F-15s had maintained a safe distance and were conducting standard ADIZ monitoring. By going public so quickly and in such strong terms, Japan seized control of the narrative, setting a tone of transparency and resolve before Beijing could issue its own account. China's Ministry of National Defense wasted no time issuing a rebuttal. Spokesperson Wang Shuomeng insisted the J-15s had used only standard search radar during training, not fire control modes. According to Beijing, Japanese F-15s repeatedly approached the carrier's designated training airspace and disrupted normal operations. Wang described these flights as provocations, accusing Japan of exaggerating the encounter to stir up regional tensions. State media amplified this version, portraying the incident as a case of Japan playing the victim while intruding on legitimate Chinese drills. The official line from Beijing was clear: using radar to monitor nearby aircraft is routine for any Navy conducting carrier operations. They denied any intent to threaten or escalate, framing the radar emissions as normal and lawful. In their telling, the true risk came from Japanese fighters pressing too close to the training area, an area China claimed as essential for its exercises, even though the location was international airspace southeast of Okinawa. This information clash unfolded against a charged political backdrop. Just weeks earlier, Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi had told Japan's parliament that a Chinese attack on Taiwan could trigger a survival-threatening situation for Japan, a statement that rattled Beijing and drew immediate demands for retraction. Takaichi refused, and the diplomatic chill set the stage for every move in the sky to be scrutinized for intent. As both sides dug in, the facts themselves became part of the contest. On December 9, a new layer of pressure arrived. Two Russian Tu-95 bombers capable of carrying nuclear weapons joined two Chinese H-6 bombers for a coordinated flight over the East China Sea. Their path threaded between Okinawa and Miyako Island, a corridor already tense from the radar lock incident just days earlier. At one stage, 4 Chinese J-16 fighters formed up as escorts, giving the formation a distinctly martial profile. Japanese and South Korean fighters scrambled in response, tracking the bombers as they pushed out toward the Pacific and then looped back. The patrol's timing left little doubt about its intent. General Hiroaki Uchikura, chief of Japan's Joint Staff, called the flight deliberate intimidation and warned that it posed a grave concern from the standpoint of Japan's security. The presence of Russian and Chinese nuclear-capable bombers so soon after the confrontation near Okinawa signaled that the crisis was no longer just a matter between Tokyo and Beijing. The airspace south of Japan had become a stage for coordinated great power signaling, with each move watched and answered by the region's major players. December 10 brought a clear answer from Washington. 2 U.S. Air Force B-52H Stratofortress bombers crossed the Sea of Japan, escorted by 3 Japanese F-35A stealth fighters and 3 F-15Js. The flight was not a routine training sortie. It was a public demonstration of Allied resolve. They were nuclear-capable bombers flying in formation with Japan's most advanced and most numerous fighters. Just days after the radar lock incident southeast of Okinawa, Japan's Joint Staff called the operation a reaffirmation of the strong will between Japan and the US not to tolerate unilateral changes to the status quo by force. The US State Department followed with an unusually direct statement condemning China's radar targeting of Japanese aircraft and declaring, "China's actions are not conducive to regional peace and stability. The US and Japan alliance is stronger and more united than ever. Our commitment to our ally Japan is unwavering." Across the Atlantic, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte weighed in, calling the radar incident regrettable and linking Indo-Pacific security to the Euro-Atlantic order. In a single week, a tactical act over the East China Sea had drawn in the world's strongest alliances, turning a local confrontation into a test of international commitments. In the Pacific today, a single radar lock can redraw alliances overnight. As military signals grow sharper, deterrence depends on more than hardware. It relies on trust and restraint. The next miscalculation may not end with a warning. The world is watching to see who blinks first.